moving on to the less wrong sequences.
Post 1, Chronophone, Motivators.
No, post 1 was Archimedes' Chronophone.
Damn it. Post 1, Archimedes' Chronophone. No, you're good. All right, so what's a chronophone, Inyash? This is confusing. I know what Chronos is. Chronos is the god of time.
Yes.
I know what a phone is.
Do you know what a chrono trigger is?
I know what Archimedes is.
It's a video game I never played, but I owned for many years.
You owned it but didn't play it?
Yeah, I bought it from a friend, and then I was like...
It was such a good game. You should have played it.
What is it? Video
Chrono
games?
Oh, you haven't heard of Chrono Trigger?
What are you talking about?
It is one of the most famous JRPG games.
Do you get to shoot a time gun?
No, but you get to jump around through time, and part of the gameplay is like going back in time to change things, so then you can jump forward in time and reap some of the benefits of that.
Nice.
Yeah, and it's got a whole lot of. It's a great storyline. It was good game mechanics. It was just one of the height of the JRPG, phenomenon at that time.
I'll point out that Ocarina of Time did the same thing. But
Okay.
it wasn't the point of the game.
Yeah.
But there's a larger aspect of that involved.
Yeah.
That was a major game mechanic. And also, Life is Strange. And wow, here's another digression. And I think I'm the one who brought it up. Now I feel bad. Let's go back to the Archimedes Chronophone.
Okay.
Chronophone.
No, I mentioned Chrono Trigger. I think that was me. Doesn't matter. The Archimedes Chronophone. Anyways.
Prince of Persia lets you rewind time and keep trying. All right,
Yeah.
now we're going on.
Archimedes was a smart dude back in the day. He was like one of the most famous mathematician of the ancient world, I think, right?
Sounds right. Or one of them. There's like
Yeah.
Pythagoras and all those people running around at that time. But
Right. The post-Archimedes Chronophone asks us to imagine that Archimedes invented a temporal telephone, or chronophone for short, which lets you talk to him. From us in the 21st century to him in his century, and we can make suggestions to him. But the chronophone avoids transmitting overly anachronistic information. Doesn't want to screw things up too bad. So it transmits cognitive strategies rather than words. So if you follow the policy of check my brain's memory to see what my culture recommends as a wise form of political organization, you don't say to Archimedes, women should have the right to vote. What comes out of the chronophone is the result of Archimedes following the same policy and looking up in his brain what his aura lauds as the wise form of political organization. So it'd be something like, find a very wise and just tyrant. The same dilemma applies to scientific issues. If you say the Earth circles the Sun, it comes out of the chronophone as the Sun circles the Earth. It doesn't matter that our civilization is right and their civilization is wrong. The chronophone takes no notice of facts, only beliefs and cognitive strategies. You try to transmit your belief about heavenly mechanics, so it comes out as Archimedes' belief about heavenly mechanics.
it's funny because the next thing he says is exactly my thinking, which is kind of like, all right, I'll lay out this like really careful step of like old school philosophy.
Yeah.
And we'll daisy chain you there. But why won't that work?
He's very good thing that you try to do that, though. Okay, if you try to do that, what comes out on Archimedes' end is a careful style of Plato-like philosophical analogies which argue that wealthy male landowners should have special privileges. You followed the cognitive policy of come up with a line of philosophical arguments intended to persuade a neutral observer to my own era's point of view on political privilege. So what comes out of the chronophone is what Archimedes would think up if he followed the same cognitive strategy. And the point of this is to point out how hard it is to come up with anything truly novel. I think Eliezer says later on in the post, the really odd thing is that some point in time, someone must have turned against slavery, gone from pro-slavery to anti-slavery, even though they didn't start out wanting to persuade themselves against slavery.
We touched on the animal liberation thing. That was analogous to that with me.
Okay.
I'm still... I don't know. It's hard to be like an animal rights activist in the 21st century with PETA running around doing it all the wrong ways. But the message of like, you know, factory farms are a nightmare and we should be eating less meat and
animals do have some level of sentience, or at least some animals.
Yeah, and that matters. Those are messages that are important, right? But those aren't things I started out believing.
Yeah.
Anyway, wanted to derail us for no reason.
That wasn't a derail. That was directly related.
All right, cool. Tangent. Or wait, no, hold on. What do you call a parallel tangent? Right next to what we were talking about. What do you call this?
I think that was just on topic.
Damn.
Well done, Stephen.
Go, Stephen. Such unusual feeling for me. I felt like I was doing it wrong. Okay.
He points out humanity did not invent the scientific method by setting out to invent the scientific method, by looking for a garden path that would lead to the scientific method. If you know your desired destination, i.e. the scientific method, you're already there. So, yeah, the basic point is that to get non-obvious output, you need non-obvious input. If you say something that's considered obvious in your home culture, it comes out as something that's considered obvious in his culture. And the challenge at the end, which I found I could not answer, although to be fair, I did not give it 5 minutes by the clock, is what advice do you give Archimedes, and how do you say it into the chronophone?
This is fun. I almost kind of want to take a 5-minute break to think of one because I didn't think about it really that much yet.
All right.
We could also, all three of us, just talk about it for 5 minutes. Does that work?
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay.
So the constraint is that I can't just tell him a fact because he'll look at like a relevant fact that he has in his head. So I also can't share with him like a moral conviction because he'll look at his similar mapped moral conviction. So I need to be more abstract than that.
Yeah.
Cognitive strategy.
So a strategy, but like my strategy for like find the truth is the scientific method or something. And his strategy for find the truth is, let's not say it's Archimedes and someone dumber and say it's like whatever, stargaze or something, right? Or what do you call reading the stars?
Right. Oh, Plato's method for finding the truth was literally contemplate what the perfect nature is.
Yeah.
You will never find things just by looking at the real world, because the real world is but a shadow of the true forms of things.
Well,
The bummer is that Plato was mostly wrong.
Yeah. No, well, how do we actually get the scientific method? What I thought of immediately was alchemy, and the idea wasn't like, let's discover the scientific method. It was, let's transmute something into gold. And the fact that they kept failing to transmit something into gold means that, okay, we didn't do it right, something else. Okay, we didn't do that right. Obviously, this isn't the correct thing, something else. So something like iterative attempts at something with like a really high tolerance for failure.
A lot of the scientific method, or the starting of it, was just the practice of writing shit down.
Yeah, that's true.
You mean like, well, both your predictions and your results?
No,
also-
just the results even.
Yeah, writing it down, but also like testing it first, because I think there was this armchair philosophizing about, okay, here's how the heavens work, here's how the humors work, and people are just like, okay, that sounds right. But if you're trying to transmute something into gold, if it's not gold at the end of that process, then you fucked up.
Yeah, 700 years ago, like it was just natural philosophy was the closest thing we had to science. And that was people like Aristotle going out to the beach and lining up a bunch of dead animals and just like, this looks kind of like that. These things are closely related, which like was better than anyone had ever done. But he also had some weird shit. I think we mentioned this once before, that like men have more teeth than women, and it's like
And no one ever counted.
no one counted, right?
Well, then again, actually, how many people had all of their teeth during that time period?
And somebody wrote in with the correction on, maybe I got something wrong there, but he made errors kind of that basic. But what he did was he was out there cataloging stuff, and that was like an innovation. So yeah, writing stuff down is a big step.
I mean, I know a lot of the early scientists, not really scientists, but I mean, they started out as hobbyists who were just like, I'm really interested in birds. I'm going to write down every bird I observe. And, I'm really interested in stars. I think Tycho Brahe had like 10 years of observations of just the movements of the planets, just written down every night. He's like, this is the coordinates where this was at, and just tomes of data, which he kept because he was a weird, eccentric dude, and Kepler used that to form his theories of motion.
Human databases.
Yeah, I mean, just writing things down. It's having people meet. They're like, we're really interested about this aspect of the natural world. Let's talk about it and write down everything we see, and eventually science grew from that.
I think observation is a really good first step, and like kind of a value of the scientific method. Yeah, and also writing it down. So recording your observations, would that turn into anything if you told Archimedes, record your observations?
I think so, because we already know.
It's like interacting with a malicious genie who's like determined to misinterpret you. So how would Archimedes misinterpret? Write down what you discover.
Well, because we already know it's a good idea to write things down and to compare data. So for Archimedes, it would be like, it's a really good idea to consult a wise man who has this knowledge.
But the difference is, like, we're saying not how to get it, we're saying how to share it or store it. So like
the wise man is a store of knowledge, right? And he shares it with people who ask him.
Okay.
Even
But
that's
Archimedes
better than
also did experiments and stuff. Like he was able to measure like the volume of like weirdly shaped objects by placing them in water and measuring the displaced water, right?
Right, yeah.
Is that
Discovering that it was-
Archimedes?
I believe so. Wasn't it the whole bathtub eureka thing?
I think that was Archimedes.
I don't think so, but I don't know.
Well, Archimedes in particular, whoever it is we're talking to, some Greek. I'm skimming the comments to try and cheat. And I've noticed this, years ago, but it's funny. Robin Hansen's handle on Less Wrong is Robin Hansen 2. I don't know if he forgot Robin Hansen or someone else took it, but that's really funny to me.
Well, we've used up our 5 minutes.
Yeah.
We only get 5 minutes.
Well,
Oh wait, yeah. Okay, I see what you mean. Okay, yeah, that was Archimedes.
All right.
Anyone want to guess what Robin Hansen's advice was?
Wait,
Make prediction markets.
You're halfway there.
All right.
bet on things, yeah.
Robin Hansen said 12 years ago that it would sure help if you could speak into one end and then hear how it comes out of the other end and then edit and repeat. If so, I try and encourage him to make useful devices that make money and create a tradition of this activity.
Yeah, well, again, that was the gold. You need like incentive to get things right.
We think it's pretty obvious nowadays, though, that economic advancement is a good idea.
It's not even necessarily. Well, I guess it's also economics because if you, for example, cure a disease, now you can sell the cure. But yeah, no, that's good, Robin Hansen. Actually, I was trying to think of a way to phrase that of like find something that people actually care about getting the answer right about, whether it's curing a disease or whether it's transmuting gold, and then be like, pursue this. Try a lot of things. Be really open to failure. Iterate, whatever that would come out as in Archimedes' time. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I think they already had the values of truth is good and persistence and hard work is good. That wouldn't be new information we'd be giving them.
But then why were people, able to just like make up shit about how many teeth people had or how the stars worked, and then everybody was like, sounds right. Like, it didn't matter what the truth was because nobody was making money off of it or curing a disease or, nobody's life depended on it.
That adds more actual wisdom, I think, to Robin Hansen's reply. I sort of just took it as like a funny, like, of course you're an economist, you would say make money. But that's super uncharitable. I didn't really think about it as I was reading it. Obviously, you can make money on super valuable discoveries. And if you find something that, hey, look, it turns out if you put your hands in, like whatever, clean salt water and rub them around a little bit, and then you do surgery, people die a lot less. Something like that. You could sell that knowledge and save lives or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, if it has money, there's incentive. That's actually a good suggestion.
That sadly was not borne out by what actually happened in history.
No.
When it was proven that washing your hands reduces mortality in surgery by a fuck ton, people were like, we don't believe you. Are you implying that we're dirty doctors? And like, it didn't catch on for I think 20 years after that.
As far as how long it takes things to catch on pre-internet,
you'd
that's
think
not
that
the worst.
people would have, been able to make money by not killing their patients as quickly.
And you'd think doctors would be interested in anything and able to interpret statistics. And yes, it was a whole sad affair.
Even more recently, Atul Gawande wrote the Checklist Manifesto where he was, advocating for have a checklist of the things that you need to do when you're performing surgery or doing some kind of medical operation, because often people are, humans and they're prone to human error, and also nurses and doctors work crazy schedules and they forget stuff like, oops, I sewed that patient up with the scalpel in their chest, or, having a checklist. It seems like such an obvious thing, but people are like, oh, are you saying that I'm like stupid and I need a checklist? I'm a doctor. I've got,
Yeah, there was a lot of
got a
pushback
degree.
against the checklists.
I feel like that's kind of the same thing too, where like, somebody who's not an expert in this field is coming in and being like, hey, guess what? Use salt water. And they're like, yeah, like, okay, who's the doctor here?
Anyways.
Yeah, that's just a bummer.
Yeah.
Not rationalists are doing that though. Rationalists would be like, that's one of the strengths of
Yeah,
rationality,
argument
right?
from authority.
Yeah, so we see that as, I kind of the reverse. Like, I'm an authority, why should I listen to you? But a rationalist would be like, oh, you've got data? Gimme, right?
I certainly hope so.
That's kind of the goal.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, if you tell me, I would think that if I was a surgeon, I'd be like, I would totally understand where they're coming from. I'm the fucking doctor. I've been doing this for 15 years. I almost never screw up. Why do I need your stupid suggestion, you non-doctor?
Right.
But if you were a true Bayesian, you would say, oh, wow, you've got survey studies or whatever data that show that this actually does reduce incidences.
Well, if you're a true
If you
Bayesian,
say
you also
so.
have to take into consideration how much you trust your source. And maybe they didn't trust the source of that guy since he was not a doctor, They're like, what could you possibly know? This is more, scamming, trying to get money from us or something. Trying to build up your own name so you can sell a lot of books.
Yeah, but all right, fair enough. But it's, just to back and forth on that, it's a very low cost thing to hang this thing up and try it for a year, right? You only have to pay for the piece of paper once, and it's probably like 8 cents. So I guess medical grade paper is $10.
I thought you were talking about the hand washing. Atul Gawande is
No.
like actually. I forget what his position was at the time. I think he was like the head of like a bunch of hospitals and actually like a very authoritative figure.
I think that the checklist thing does have a cost, though. You can't just go right in and do your surgery. You have to go through this tedious checklist every single time, and that's a pain in the ass. I have a
It adds a
checklist.
step.
Yeah, I have a checklist at work for the closing of the accounts that I do every month. I update that checklist 2 weeks later when I'm all done because I'm like, I don't have time for this fucking checklist right now. I got to do my work, and I'm already working long hours.
Well, that's a bummer. On the plus side, on my procedure today, I was able to watch because I could see like they've got the some sort of X-ray, but it's like live. Hopefully, it's on X-rays because I didn't have anything covering my nethers. But I
They can't see your penis on an X-ray anyway. There's no bones in it.
Oh, it wasn't a telescope. That's not my point. No, I was more worried about X-rays damaging my sperm, right? And giving me cancer.
Okay.
But I could see where the needles were and stuff, and watching him putting in dye and all that. And luckily, since I was able to watch, I could see him take them both out, because he put in like little prep needles and stick stuff into them and then pull those things out. I'm pretty sure I'd be able to feel it like this too, but it was just, I could see they did all the right stuff because I was able to watch. So that's a tangent. That wasn't related at all.
Yeah.
Okay.
Damn it, Steven. You were doing so good. So I think the main point of Archimedes' Chronophone was to set up the next post, Chronophone Motivators, which I thought made some really interesting points. So Eliezer starts up by saying the challenge is supposed to be difficult. It's really hard to get somewhere when you don't already know your destination. If there were some simple cognitive policy you could follow to spark moral and technological revolutions without your home culture having advanced knowledge of the destination, you could execute that cognitive policy today.
That actually, I'm going to go back to I didn't read all the comments, but that again is one of the wisdoms of Robin's answer. Like, making money was already a value 2,000 years ago, right? Presumably?
Or, yeah, whatever.
I mean, sort of. It was, depending on your culture, it was often really looked down upon. Like, merchants were dirty, and it was really a scandal when they started gaining political power because they didn't come to it honestly.
Yeah, not making money, having money in your family, being an aristocrat.
Right. Having money is good. Making money makes you like a dirty merchant trader person.
It's a nouveau riche.
Yeah,
that's such a like old rich.
And I totally see what you're saying,
because
you're right. Merchants are these thieves who steal stuff and upsell it, kind of like today.
Yeah, they're all used car salesmen.
It's rich people's like, look at this person trying to become a rich person like me when they weren't born into it.
Yeah, you're right. Having money made you awesome, but trying to have money made you shit.
Yeah.
All right, we're weird, so I don't know how you would have successfully got that to him. I guess if you could get past the like earning money part and just have the have money part, then it's worth 5 years of people hating you, maybe.
I mean, obviously, a lot of people thought it was worth it.
Yeah.
There were a bunch of people who got money and power.
Fair enough. All right.
So I found this interesting comparison to the modern day. He points out that one of the commenters, Gur, suggested teaching Archimedes decimal notation. If you speak decimal notation, our culture's standard representation of numbers into the chronophone, then the chronophone outputs standard representation numbers used in Syracuse. But Eliezer did note, place notation is revolutionary because it makes it easier for ordinary people, not just trained accountants, to manipulate large numbers. Maybe an equivalent new idea in our own era would be Python, which makes it easier for novices to program computers. Coming up with that chronophone input suggests that maybe we should pay more attention in this era to Python, which I was like, that is a new and non-obvious conclusion that he just reached. Am I doing something wrong by not knowing Python?
I think that's actually a pretty common sentiment now, where they're trying to like push every child in school to learn programming. That's become a new thing. I don't know if our incentives are coming from the right place, because it's not like people are like, oh, these kids need to learn programming because that way we're going to elevate the human race. I think a lot of that is coming from, we need to teach these kids Python so that like they will have employment.
Right.
Which again, it's the economics thing, so it's not like, I don't want to say that having money is bad or that trying to gain social status or whatever is bad.
Well, unless you're a Python developer right now, in which case your marketability is going to plummet here soon when there's a bunch of high school graduates who can do entry-level work.
But I mean, that's how initial literacy and numeracy came about too, right? It was economically useful for people to know it. And eventually we were like, this is so useful, the whole human race should have these skills.
I feel like I'm missing something.
Like, I don't think it's obvious, at least I didn't until now, that everyone should know Python the same way I think everyone should know...
Cursive? They still teach cursive,
fuck
right?
Cursive. That everyone should know
how to write.
Decimal system and know how to use numbers and how to read.
The thing with cursive was just that I think that they're teaching kids a lot of stuff that's outdated and not very useful nowadays.
Oh, right.
Like cursive.
Luckily, they're not teaching cursive in a lot of places, though.
Yeah, I think they have
much
actually stopped.
to the chagrin of our grandparents.
Yeah, no, I actually met somebody recently who like was like, people don't even know how to do cursive anymore. I don't know, my kid or my grandkid or whatever doesn't even understand cursive, and she's laughing, and I'm just like, yeah, but she could probably fix your phone.
Yeah, it's like, shut up, Grandma. You just gave half your life savings to a Nigerian prince. So. Yeah, when you forget how to log into Facebook and you call on your grandkid and you can't write them a letter in cursive to ask for their help. So tough shit.
Yeah.
But this is coming from somebody who tries to make a living programming. Like, it's not clear to me what the benefit is to the average person. Like, hold on.
If you could quickly automate simple tasks that lots of times people go through the more tedious way. I mean, the whole point of it is that it's supposed to be non-obvious, right? Like,
yeah, but like
1,000 years ago, people would have been like, Why do my children need to know about decimal notation and how to manipulate numbers? It's not a useful skill in their farming.
Yes, like if you do basic scripting and you're doing like similar things most days or something, that'd be nice. But it's not clear that most people have the applicability to put that into their lives.
I don't know
And
about
again,
Python, but like basic kind of computer language literacy.
computer literacy, like just
What-
how to cut
yeah.
and paste and all that stuff. I
Well,
mean,
look,
that sounds super valuable.
I'm an accountant. I don't do math every day. I don't even do math every week, really. But I still think it's good to know how to do math for the times when you do need it.
That's what I'm struggling with, because yeah, it's valuable for me. Yeah, again, I don't do math that much either. Like it's just
Even reading and writing. There's some people that just never read a book after school, but the fact that people are literate as opposed to not is just such like a force multiplier for people having the ability later on in life to elevate themselves or to develop new interests or just communicate with people.
Just the ability to see information that is stored in the physical world is super handy. Like,
yeah.
I heard about a guy who was a long-haul truck driver who couldn't read. And whenever he like needed to get some places where he needed to read signs, he would call someone up and he's like, yeah, I'm kind of lost right now. Can you tell me, is there like a landmark nearby or something? And I mean, eventually some people caught on, but didn't know how to read. Kind of a handicap when so much information is stored in written form all around us.
Yeah, that's weird to think about. I mean, I'd like to think that actually I did this. I can confirm, even though I can't. Well, I don't know if I ever did this like to save my life on the highway, but I did do this a little bit in Japan. Like I can't read Japanese, but I could look at what the place is called on my phone in the whatever the kanji, and just
Looks
line
basically
it
like
up
that.
and be like, that looks the same. This is probably it.
You weren't trying to drive down the highway.
Exactly. Yeah. So I wasn't doing that on the interstate. Yeah, maybe that's the point. Is like a lot of these things aren't like the things that you need to do to live every day, but it sure is a handy tool to be able to like do basic addition when you're grocery shopping or something.
Yeah, or just have a framework of understanding of like a big, I don't know, I keep wanting to say the word magisteria, and that's a terrible word. What am I thinking? A paradigm? Maybe a big paradigm, because so much of our lives is digital now, and it's just going to become more and more that, and if kids don't know how to program, I almost feel like that's like not knowing how to read, where maybe kids didn't need to know how to read, quote unquote, when there was mostly agricultural stuff going on, but like the Industrial Revolution shifted everything so far in the other direction that those kids would have gotten left behind real quickly.
Yeah.
And also, like, just, I feel like it's almost depriving somebody of understanding something that's so integral and so interesting to, I'm having, like, a failure of being able to come up with words again. Somebody else talk.
No, I think I know what you're saying, though. And if anything, I'm moved to learn more Python. I know the very basics, but this actually sounds useful. I've never written a Python script for something to do at home and to be like, hey, I've actually thought about this, too. Like, when you download a torrent program, and I'm sure there's already tools that do this online for you, but I'm not sure where they are. You get, whatever, game.thrones. Or whatever game, and it's all separated by periods, and it's got the year and like whatever the torrenter's name on it. I've never done this, of course, because I'm a good, whatever,
Yes.
copyright-loving American. But I've heard tell of this type of thing. It'd be super easy to write something that recognizes the period spacing and just replace that with spaces, and then give everything proper capitalization. That sounds super doable. I should do something like that. And Python sounds like a great language for it too. Okay, cool, fun idea. Writing this down. Stealing my own ideas.
So the point that was made is that most of what we desperately want to say to Archimedes is not obvious relative to Archimedes' culture. This strongly suggests that the most important things the future would want to say to us are, amazingly enough, not things that everyone already knows. If you want to really benefit humanity, you've got to do some original thinking. Come up with the sort of non-obvious idea that you would speak into a chronophone. And you have to do some hard thinking about areas of application and directions of effort. You can't just run off in the direction of what your contemporary culture has instilled as the reflex answer to the question, how can I benefit humanity? And I think this is really like, knowing now what I know about where the rest of the sequence is going, I see that this is where he's setting us up for, yeah, this AI shit sounds really weird, especially here in 2008.
But I'm talking to you from the future.
Right, but like, you're going to have to do some weird thinking and stuff that does not come to mind automatically when people say, how can I benefit humanity, if you really want to actually benefit humanity the same way that someone from the future could benefit Archimedes' society. That's
what I love about Yudkowsky's approach to everything is that, I mean, the sequences weren't just for him to get, ad revenue on Less Wrong, right?
Right.
The whole goal was to raise the sanity waterline enough to get enough people, and luckily he's a good writer and he's charismatic and all that helps. And so from when he started writing the sequences to when Miri got like sufficient funding took 15 years?
Something like that, 10 to 15.
Yeah, just a couple years ago, one of the early Less Wrongers was one of the people who made a fortune on Bitcoin, and they now no longer have funding needs, right? So this paid off. The whole thing was, let's get people on. If that's not long-term awesome strategies and taking a novel approach to solving a problem, I don't know what is.
Yeah.
It not only paid off in getting Miri funded and noticed and everything, but now there's people that can work on these things because they've had this training in rationality.
Yeah.
I think that's really cool.
No, it's fantastic. Was that the whole second one?
The wrap-up was the point of the Chronophone dilemma is to make us think about what kind of cognitive policies are good to follow when you don't know your destination in advance. If you can just tell Archimedes to build a capitalist society because your culture already knows that's a good idea, it defeats the purpose of the dilemma. The Chronophone, the Chronophone transmits cognitive policies, not sentences. What sort of thinking are we doing now that is analogous to the thinking that we wish Archimedes had done then? And I think this is, when people ask us what good is rationality, I think this is basically the answer, that rationality is about trying to find good cognitive policies, not necessarily like good actual answers, but good policies that work to
get us to these goals that we didn't know we had.
And that we didn't know we had is, I think, the crux there, right? Because I certainly wasn't really concerned about AI before I read this stuff, and it took years of getting into the community before I really thought about it.
I think that rationality isn't necessarily how to achieve a goal, it's how to find the right mental tools to be able to pursue your goals in general.
Yeah, we had our monthly meetup last night. There were a couple first timers, and at least one first timer. When newcomers come, and if they're not already they haven't drank the Kool-Aid, they're kind of like, what do you guys do? What are you guys about?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not really like a skeptic meetup where it's like, oh, we talk about consumer protection, about like not buying snake oil and not giving all your money in tithes to those damn religious people. We don't. I mean, there's things that is popular in rationality, EA, AI, other abbreviations for things, but it's more about fostering a community. As far as the meetup, that's what I told somebody last night. Because when we had dinner, when Robin Hanson came for Harris's podcast, a few of us got to chill with him. He asked, like, what does your guys' community do? And I'm like, nothing. But that's not the right answer. The real answer, not just the right one, is that
we learn how to think.
Exactly. Well, he said, like, some groups that he goes to, like, they're doing, like, the next blockchain, whatever, this person's doing this, whatever. But all we're doing is kind of cultivating a community of that sort of mindset. And so it's a group of sane people that I can talk to and say, what do you guys think about this? That I can trust them to actually know how to assess that and give me feedback that matters. Yeah. And hopefully I can do the same for them, right?
Right.
So, you can do all of this in your basement reading Less Wrong if you want, but doing it in real life gives you that external, I guess, motivator and sounding board, because you probably can't do it perfectly by yourself. Having other people to do thinking with makes, who would have thought collaboration is useful, right?
Right.
I get a lot of value out of, again, the kind of productive peer pressure, or like the positive peer pressure. If I'll actually like actively ask people now that it's cool, because I know people in the community who it's like, hey, want to go to the library with me? And then like we can force each other to do things that we want to do but like aren't doing right now. And that was something that I could never get in like my other social circles, because it would be like people would pay lip service to the idea and then not do it. In this community, people actually will do it. I love that.
I like that too. And even though we didn't go to the library on Tuesday together, I went to the library by myself and did stuff with the flowers. So
trickle down effects.
So Stephen, what are we going to be talking about next time?
Next week we have actually one of the most popular, I guess popular to me, probably to other people, but so the first one is self-deception, hypocrisy, or Akrasia, which sounds fun. And then the other one, which sounds way more fun, is Tsuyoku Naritai, which is Japanese for I want to become stronger.
That was a damn good post.
Yeah, it was fun, and I think that one's
it's one of
memorable
the ones that
too.
sticks out in my memory. Yeah.
Yeah.
I still say that to myself.
Nice. Yeah.
Like
I haven't read it, I think, in years and years, but yeah, I remember it.
That's sort of the final message that Harry has for himself in Methods of Rationality. It's like, I need to level up my game. And that's valuable, right? And hopefully it doesn't take almost destroying the world to do that. So,
and we will have links to it on on thebayesianconspiracy.com if you would like to read ahead along with us. And then we'll talk about it in our next episode in 2 weeks.
Yeah.